Welcome to part 2 of our top 10 driver rankings in terms of pole to win success. During this video, we're introducing the remaining 5 drivers with the highest pole to win ratios up until the end of 2022. If you haven't already, make sure to watch part 1 of this video, where we go through drivers between 6th and 10th place. Link is in the description box below. Similarly to part 1, a few disclaimers before we dive in. This video is recorded after the 2022 season finale, so please keep in mind that upcoming races may alter future rankings. Qualifying rules have changed over the course of 2021 and 2022 in terms of sprint weekends. All statistics presented today are reflective of these changes, meaning that while 2021 sprint results are counted towards pole statistics as of 2022, it is Friday's quali sessions that officially define the pole sitter of the weekend. Drivers with less than 7 pole positions achieved throughout their careers are not included in the list, as the aim of the video is to show consistent accomplishments. With all that cleared up, let's continue with the 5th driver on the list. Number 5, Sir Lewis Hamilton with an overall pole to win ratio of 59.22%. Hamilton broke and still claims almost all types of F1 records. He leads with the highest number of 103 pole positions ahead of everybody else, 61 of which he translated to race wins on the following Sundays. Hamilton joined Formula 1 as a McLaren driver in 2007 alongside reigning champion Fernando Alonso. He had an outstanding debut season as he already broke records with the highest number of wins and points in the rookie season. Hamilton started from pole 6 times that year and won 4 of the following races in Montreal, Indianapolis, Hungary, and Fuji respectively. He came close to winning the Drivers' Championship title in his first season in F1, but ultimately ended up 1 point behind Ferrari driver Kimi Räikkönen. Hamilton's career evolved one step further during the next season when he was crowned world champion. The Briton sat on pole 7 times, 3 of which were translated to race victories the following days. His next 4 years with the team weren't as remarkable as the ones before, yet he managed to score at least 1 pole each season. He ended his 2009 to 2012 McLaren era with a 31% pole to victory rate. The Briton changed teams in 2013 and continued his career with Mercedes, which seemed like an unwise choice at the time. He topped quali sessions 5 times that year and won 1 of the following races, namely in Hungary. From 2014 onwards, Hamilton's career skyrocketed with the introduction of the new turbo hybrid era. He won the championship title each season up until 2021, with the exception of 2016. He scored an overall number of 67 pole positions between 2014 and 2020, and triumphed on 46 of the corresponding races, which converts to a 69% success rate. Hamilton came close to a record-breaking number of championship titles in 2021, however, Verstappen claimed the win after the final race in Abu Dhabi. With a season that resembled his fight with Rosberg in 2016, Hamilton collected 5 pole positions, 3 of which were followed by race victories in Hungary, Qatar, and Jeddah. With regulation changes in 2022, Mercedes lost their previous advantage over other teams, leaving Hamilton with no pole positions or race victories achieved during the season, though he came close to win a race on a number of occasions, including Austin and Mexico amongst others. As a 7-time world champion remains in the sport, and Mercedes are seemingly closing up to Ferrari and potentially to Red Bull, the fate of that 8th title is far from being sealed yet. Number 4, Jenson Button with an overall pole to win ratio of 62.5%. A master of vet races, Jenson Button sat on pole 8 times throughout his career and managed to claim race victories on 5 of the corresponding races. Prior to his first pole position in Imola 2004, Button joined F1 in 2000 as a Williams driver. This partnership didn't last long despite Button becoming the youngest point scorer at the time, as the Briton was let go of the team in 2001 and joined Benetton, where he ended up staying till the end of 2002. In 2003, he continued his career with the British American racing team, and after finishing 9th in the championship, he managed to keep the momentum going in the following season when he finished on the podium 10 times and ended up 3rd in the championship. The Briton also secured his first ever pole that year. Sadly, he lost first position to Schumacher in the race that followed. Before Brown GP purchased the team in 2009, Barr didn't offer a particularly competitive package, and as a result, Button got on pole only twice between 2005 and 2008. Unfortunately, he couldn't finish any of the following races. In 2009, Brown GP were one of the frontrunners in F1, which meant that Button managed to win 6 of the first 7 races. During this time, he started from pole 4 times and won all of the consecutive races. Thanks to his strong performance during the first half of the season, the Briton secured the championship title with 1 race to spare. After signing with McLaren in 2010, albeit showcasing his speed a number of times, Button couldn't top qualifying charts during his first 2 seasons with the team. In 2012, however, he claimed 3 victories, one of which was scored after starting from pole in Spa. As that was Button's only pole during the season, this constitutes a 100% pole to victory rate. In the upcoming 4 years as a McLaren driver, Button didn't manage to win a race, nor did he sit on pole, though he outscored his teammates each season with the exception of 2016. After his reserve drive role with McLaren came to an end in 2017, Button decided to leave Formula 1 and is currently working as a Williams senior advisor. Number 3. Fernando Alonso with an overall pole-to-win ratio of 63.63%. The only Spaniard to win an F1 title, 2-time world champion Fernando Alonso has sat on pole 22 times and managed to win 14 of the corresponding races so far during his career. With no loss of performance, he has proven time and time again that he possesses a unique level of adaptability to all types of machineries and weather conditions. In 2003, Alonso was offered a full-time seat to compete with Renault. The Spaniard extracted a high-level performance out of the car right away as he sat on pole in Malaysia and Hungary, and in the latter case he managed to translate that pole to a race victory on the following day, granting him his first race win in F1. Before tyre regulation changes in 2005, Alonso sat on pole once in France, though he ended up second the day after. He managed to clinch the championship title in the coming 2 years in a close battle with Raikkonen and then with Schumacher. The Spaniard scored 12 poles between 2005 and 2006, and with a success rate of 67%, he triumphed on 8 of the following races. He left the team for McLaren in 2007 and managed to claim 2 poles that season, which were both sealed with race victories. Alonso returned to Renault in the following years and collected 1 pole in 2009. Alas, the Spaniard couldn't keep his lead as he had to retire after only 12 completed laps in the race of Hungary. His last registered pole positions thus far have been achieved with Ferrari in 2010 and 2012. He scored 4 poles throughout these years and managed to sustain his lead on 3 of the corresponding races. Luck hasn't been on Alonso's side since then. After leaving Ferrari at the end of 2014, he raced for McLaren between 2015 and 2018. Much to Alonso's frustration, the car was not competitive enough, and after a 2-year break in F1, he signed with Alpine in 2021. Despite his outstanding performances, the Spaniard hasn't exactly been fortunate for a number of years now, and after numerous reliability issues and failed contract negotiations with his team, Alonso signed with Aston Martin for 2023. Number 2. Alberto Ascari with an overall pole-to-win ratio of 64.29%. The only Italian to win a championship title with Ferrari up to this day, Alberto Ascari had a remarkable talent in both motorcycle racing and Formula 1. He was the first driver to win consecutive titles in the sport between 1952 and 1953 until Fangio's championship win in 1955. Ascari started four-wheel racing 10 years before the first official championship season began in 1950, therefore he was in top form when the year kicked off. As Alfa Romeo was out of reach for Ferrari in terms of speed, Ascari didn't get on pole just yet that season. In 1951, Ascari sat on pole twice out of 8 qualifying sessions that counted towards the championship. He won one of the races that followed, and after a considerable number of reliability issues, he ended up second in the championship behind Fangio. The Italian won the title both in 1952 and 1953 as a Ferrari driver. During his time, Ascari scored 11 pole positions and won 73% of the following races. Switching to Lancia in 1954 didn't turn out to be a lucky move for Ascari, as his car had reliability issues a handful of times. This was also the last year when he won a quali session, and sadly he couldn't finish the race the following Sunday. 1955 marked a tragic year in Formula 1 with more than 80 spectators dying in Le Mans, while several other drivers passed away during different sessions. Although the Italian survived his car ending up in the sea during the Monegasque Grand Prix, Ascari died just a couple of days later during a test drive in Monza. Alberto Ascari is still remembered and praised by Italians, and as a respect of his achievements, similarly to Fangio, he was inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, and there is a street in Rome, as well as a chicane in Monza named after him. Honorable mention: Emerson Fittipaldi with an overall pole-to-win ratio of 66.67%. Although Fittipaldi has less than 7 career poles, the Brazilian deserves a shout out as he collected 6 poles throughout his time in F1, and he managed to hold on to those positions quite well, winning 4 of the corresponding races. Throughout his 10-year F1 career starting in 1970, Fittipaldi managed to grab all of his pole positions in 3 consecutive years between 1972 and 1974. He was crowned world champion as a Lotus driver in 1972 with a pole-to-win ratio of 67%. Still with Lotus, he finished second the following year behind Jackie Stewart while managing to score 1 pole position in Austria, though he didn't finish the race on the following day. Fittipaldi joined McLaren in 1974 and closed the season with yet another championship title ahead of Clay Regazzoni. He sat on pole twice that year and won both of the corresponding races. Once he joined his brother's team in 1976, the second half of his F1 career was less successful, and unfortunately with a relatively slow and unreliable car, Fittipaldi didn't manage to end up higher than 9th in any of the Drivers' Championship that followed. After leaving F1, aside from a certain milk versus orange juice scandal, the Brazilian had a quite successful career in the American Kart Series between 1984 and 1996, after which he retired from racing completely. And finally, number 1, Max Verstappen with an overall pole-to-win ratio of 75%. The driver to top the list is none other than F1's current reigning champion. During his 8 years in Formula 1, the Dutchman scored 20 pole positions and won 15 of the corresponding races. Verstappen began his F1 career with Toro Rosso in 2015 at the age of 17, and after a successful debut season where he finished 31 points ahead of teammate Carlos Sainz, the Dutchman was offered a seat at Red Bull in mid-2016. He became the youngest driver to win a race that year and ended up 5th in the Drivers' Championship. He had 7 race victories under his belt by the time he scored his first pole during the 2019 Hungarian Grand Prix. Unfortunately for Max, Hamilton managed to catch him on fresh tires towards the end of the race. His next pole was claimed in Brazil, where he managed to seize the opportunity as he won the race the day after. During another successful season, where the Dutchman ended up 3rd in the championship of 2020, Verstappen sat on pole once in Abu Dhabi and finished 1st in the race that followed. 2021 was a season that will hardly be forgotten by fans, as the 2 top contenders were fighting head-to-head and were engaging in battles that had not been typical in recent years amongst championship leaders. Verstappen's Red Bull proved to be fast on a one-lap basis, and thus the Dutchman scored 10 poles throughout the year, 7 of which were followed by race victories. He started the last race level on points with Lewis Hamilton, and though the Mercedes driver seemed to dominate the day, after a safety car deployment, Verstappen won the race and the title by overtaking the Briton in the last corners of the track. Though Ferrari seemed to challenge and oftentimes beat Red Bull in qualifying sessions, Verstappen had a better race pace throughout the season of 2022, which gradually gave him an irreversible point advantage by the end of the Japanese Grand Prix. He claimed the title with 4 races to spare and closed the season with a pole-to-win ratio of 86%. Despite his many years in F1, Max Verstappen is still amongst the younger generation of drivers, and with the trajectory of his performance so far, who knows what more he can achieve in the years ahead. So what do you make of this list? Did your favorite driver make the cut? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked our content, make sure to subscribe and press the thumbs up button. Wish you well and see you in the next video.